Westchester Magazine's People Before Politics show.
Black on black.
Follow Damon
black.
and AJ tonight at 6 p.m. on Black Westchester Magazine's People Before Politics. Stay informed, stay engaged, and see the world through a different lens. It's the news with the black point of view. Black-owned, black-operated, and not like the others that are just black jobs.
Black on black. Yeah. Hey. Okay. Black.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it.
And we are not afraid to say it. Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K. Jones here. And welcome to Black Westchester Magazine's People Before Politics radio show. And man, we got a lot to talk about today. Later on in the show, we're giving a tribute to one of Westchester's first black legislators, the Honorable Herman Keith, who represent the great city of Yonkers, New York. Him and Mayor Ernie Davis at that time won at the same time, two black men county legislators. And it was the first they were the first in Westchester history. And as we look at history and look at the deeds that both of these men did, Ernie Davis went from county legislator and went on to be mayor of Mount Vernon, New York. But both of them were trailblazers for black politics in Westchester County. And I think we owe that, and we're going to have a couple of guests on to talk about Brother Herman Keith and what he's done for the black community, for the community in Yonkers, and for black politics in Westchester. I think we always must understand how we got here, right? We didn't get here overnight. People fought for us to get the little things that we have. You know, I say that all the time with black law enforcement. These guys get the jobs and they don't understand that it was people that fought for them. Black communities fought for them to have black representation in these police departments. So they are obligated to speak up against injustice. It's not a choice. See, you know, a lot of black cops these days thinks it's a choice to get involved or not. No, you are obligated to get involved and speak about the racism in your law enforcement departments. You're obligated because people gave blood for you to wear that badge. And when you don't do that, you're not only a disservice to the people that struggled, you're a disservice to your community. So we have to understand that. And I think we also have to understand in Westchester County that we have to know where our politics came from. And these guys you know, they held up the torch. But the question is, because black people couldn't come together to keep the first black congressman in office, have that torch went out. Now we in darkness. So, you know, we're going to talk about that later with guests, with other guests that are coming on. But I got my brother here, my brother from another mother, man, and he's out there in Vegas. But we've been talking about we've been talking about what's been going on last night, and I want to bring brother in. Welcome, Greenberg's own, man. If y'all from Greenberg, y'all know his brother Alan Glover. What's going on, brother?
My man, peace, peace, peace. Greetings to everybody. Greetings to my brother from day -1. Not even day one, day -1.
Exactly.
Brother Damon. And greetings to the entire listening audience and viewing audience online. Live and in color, live from 107-degree weather in Las Vegas. And I'll always say this, people always say, how could you live in Las Vegas? Just remember, no mosquitoes, no bees, no wasps, no gnats, no fleas.
Exactly, bro. You know, Vegas is a beautiful city, even off the strip. You know,
Yes.
it's definitely a beautiful city, and is one of my places that I'm looking at to get up out of here in New York.
Yes.
If the wife allows me to do that.
Yeah,
But
right. There's a caveat. There's a caveat in that.
Exactly. Because if I was single, brother, I would have been gone. I wouldn't even be. I would have packed up. I would have packed up 3 days after I retired. I'd be like, yo, I'm out.
Man, I'm telling you.
But since that's not my reality, right? Since that's not my reality, it is what it is, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But brother, we all watched what happened last night, and I think all of us had we right now we are part of history. You know, assassination on an ex-president, running a campaign to become the next president. And I've watched the news, and now they're all in a kumbaya moment. Now, whatever people think about Trump, that's your business, right? But this man has been on TV constantly since he came down the escalator in New York, in Trump Tower, to announce that he was running for president. Even when he wasn't president, he was on every news cycle, and they was talking about Trump. Then they took Trump to court. Then they took Trump to another court. Then they took Trump to another court. And then we're all surprised that someone's going to take a shot at him. You know, the media should be ashamed of themselves because they created the atmosphere. And this is not any defense of Donald Trump. I don't want people to get it twisted about what I'm saying. This is political gangbanging at its finest. And I'm gonna say gangbanging, the red and the blue. This is political gangbanging at its finest. And now everybody wants to have a kumbaya moment. We can't have a kumbaya moment. You know, and black people, this is not your fight. You ain't got a skin in the game because you don't own no property and you don't have no businesses. 2.7% of all businesses are black businesses. We have less real estate now than we did after we was freed from slavery. Think about that. We have less real estate now than we had after we was freed from slavery. So this is not your, you make it, they want to make it your fight, but it's not your fight. So, I think, as I said last week, black people have to get their house in order. We got to worry about our.
I was gonna say I was gonna say some people need to recognize that that there is a house. Right? It's like the only way you can get the house in order is you recognize that you in a house. Some of us don't even want to recognize. Wait, I'm in your house. I'm in a house.
No, but you're right, man. I don't know what's going on.
I'll say it like this, and I appreciate the fireside chat that we're having. Obviously, in the process of what's occurring, there's much more detail that we're to learn and we're able to see as they, and when I say they, meaning government, media, do what they do in terms of their quote unquote investigations and the rest. I like what you said. I've echoed that multiple times. On one side of this was the Hatfields, and on the other side is the McCoys. Don't be Crispus addicts in the middle of their fight.
Exactly.
Don't be Crispus. You know what happened to Crispus.
Exactly.
So in the process, I look at these events, and once again, I'm going to be respectful to what is occurring in the name of Melania, the sons, the daughters, and what they are experiencing. Because in our own history, we've had history of larger than life ones of ours who were taken away from us. Mm-hmm. Malcolm taken away, Martin taken away, Medgar Evers taken away, Huey Newton taken away. The list goes on and on. We could go through Mickey Leland in the airline. I can, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. We know what it is to have ones of us collectively taken away from us. So we respect those families, because the conversation today could be altogether different. Instead of assassination plot, oh my gosh, he's not here. So we're going to respect the time and allow more information, and we pray that along with the understanding and that recovery is full, that truth be told. Truth be told. Now, the moments of what you're indicating from a political standpoint, we have always had a moment where we have to look inward. And the thing that has kind of confronted us is that we know how to look inward individually. Some of us know how to look inwardly neighborhood wide, but we don't quite yet understand how to look at each other collectively.
Right.
We have not mastered that approach in seeing our aspiration and destination as a full body collective unit, economically, politically, socially, entertainment wise. We got that going, but in all of the other facets, educationally and the rest, we have too much of a script of those that are left too far behind. So our future or our present aims are only wrapped around, a person and maybe 14 of their friends recognizing as, oh, this is the Black community. No, that's just you and 14 of your friends benefiting. But the masses of us don't benefit from wages or gains or opportunities or contracts or agreements. We collectively do not benefit. And because we are still awaiting, once again, what they're going to do next,
exactly.
we have to consciously, barring whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, agnostic, liberal, conservative, Greek, freak, mutant, non-mutant, from this planet, from not this planet, we have to look at 32 shades of our melanin and saying, you matter. We have to sit down and garner what is it that satisfies our wants and needs.
Absolutely. Like I've been asking people, what is our national Black agenda? What
Right.
what are our bullet points? And people that are watching that are in Westchester County, or if you're watching and you're in the Bronx, or you're watching whatever you're watching at, because people are watching on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and it's very important that, and I go back, and I'm going to continue to go back, because we as Black people, especially here in Westchester County, we have not dissected the Lattimore-Bowman race enough, because there were those that put a lot of money in and said community before party. Black people, we're the only ones that put party before community. And we don't understand that. And what they did was put their interests before their party. They didn't care about the party. They cared about their interests. But when you ask Black pastors, when you ask Black leaders, when you ask Black elected officials, even when you ask the Black Democrats, what is our agenda, city, county, and state, and what is our national agenda for Black people? There's no answer. We have to have a type of agenda. You can't. Every organization has a mission statement.
That's right.
Every organization has a mission statement. What is Black folks' mission statement, other than pushing an agenda that's given to us, that is given to us by other people? And we're doing a disservice to our younger generation, because then they're just going to have to fall in line just like we did as adults. We're going to have to go along with the blue gang. Even if they're wrong, we're going to go along with what the blue gang says, because we have an adult gangbanger mentality. You can't get mad at the gangs in the street, because the Democrats and the Republicans do the same thing. The hierarchy, you got to put in work. If you just can't come out the blue and win something, because you know what? Like Jamal Bowman, they're going to take you out. Because you didn't come up the hierarchy of the gang, the Democrats. You have to put in the work for the gang, the Democrats, or the Republicans. You just can't come out the blue and win an election. Oh no, you didn't, according to them, you ain't put in that work.
You're absolutely correct.
So we have to legitimately break that mentality. We have to break the gang mentality in politics. And we can't, right? Because this is what happens with gangs, right? Once the rhetoric get too much, there's gunshots.
I mean,
Mount Vernon, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you live in Mount Vernon, if you live in Yonkers, if you live in the Bronx, once the rhetoric get too high between two gangs, there's gunshots.
I think something that you had said profound during the Bowman race for his seat, or that particular political seat. One of my Morehouse brothers, Professor Eddie Glaude, who's on MSNBC, I remember him talking about the Obama presidency, and he said that, he would have hoped that at a certain point we would be mature enough to have a critical analysis of the Obama 8 years as Black people, so that we can see, to be honest, and once again, collectively, let's take a look and dissect the benefit of Obama as the president, meaning what we were able to achieve and what we were not able to achieve. Right. So that in the process, we could learn and go forward. I go harken back to one of our lessons where it speaks of, why did it says here, why did the devil divide you all and put you in sects and parties? And And the answer in short term is they put you in sex and parties so that you may learn about each other.
Right.
Now, I can say in one hand, we've learned some of each other. And there are moments in history where it looked like we were clearly on our way. One of those periods, and I'm getting to a point, was when we recognized, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
That's right.
In that early 70s period.
Mm-hmm.
You could not find anyone, whether you were a Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, liberation head, conscious, not conscious, pimp in the street, bar owner, etc. Everybody was proud of the brand label, the original context of our DNA of being black.
Right. Right.
The enemy saw that. They saw that in movies, they saw that in music, they saw that in learning and education. Remember, Damon, we came up at the Greenberg Community Center.
Absolutely.
That was where we went after school.
Right.
We knew where to be. If we weren't if we weren't there, we were in our house. But if we weren't in our house, we were at the community center.
Right.
And that reinforced the black. It reinforced the black. And we got to thank Ted Young for laying that blueprint, for laying those early hard days and years to establish the Theodore Young Community Center.
That's right.
Why am I saying all of that? The enemy saw all of that. And they said, if they keep this up with this notification and definition of black, remember, Ebony, Jet, Black Enterprise, those magazines echoed Ebony, Essence magazine. They echoed black. If our parents didn't talk to us, we knew I could pick up Jet, I could pick up Ebony. I'll know exactly what's going on, and that's why I thank you for Black Westchester. But the enemy saw that. And we're like, if we keep this collectivism up, if we allow this to go unchecked, they can easily put the right message in that conscious group collectively under black, and they'll know exactly what they want and what they need, and they will not have any qualms about addressing it. So they dropped a bomb and said, we're going to divide it up between black. We're going to divide it up into African American, Jamaican American, Caribbean American, Canadian. We're going to divide all of that up. And then on top of dividing it up, now let's juxtaposition it to now present day. We're going to add words. Damon, do you realize me and you were talking? Nobody has heard us say the word fear. Nobody has heard us say the word afraid. Nobody has heard us say the word terrified. Nobody has heard us say the word scary. But yet, if you turn on cable news, that is the diet every single day. And you know, in the name of words, words are created into sentences, which are created into paragraphs, which are created into stories.
That's right.
Which are created into action and thinking. And as it always says, if you can control a man's diameter of his thinking, you can control the circumference of his activity.
That's right.
And in the process, we're living in the day of fear, scare, terrified, afraid, scary. We're hearing all of these words, a lot of them being the diet and being brought forth by a lot of women. That's a conversation for another day. But we're eating a lot of those words.
No, and you're absolutely right. But it goes back to the lack of masculine men in leadership, right? So it goes back to talking to these brothers that are about to come on that were men, right? Unapologetic about being black men. And we don't see that anymore. And we definitely don't see it in black politics. And this is why, you know, whether the mistakes that he made for really not knowing, you know, the spectrum of the political world that he was in, Jamal. But he stood on his blackness and he was unapologetic about it, right? And we didn't we didn't support him on that. We got scared of that, right? I used to tell everybody, and I told Andrew Stewart Cousins this. I said while we was at the Black Women's Political Caucus dinner, and Jamal was the keynote speaker, and I'm sitting at the table with Senator Cousins, and I looked at her and I said, well, they were worried about me. Jamal snuck through the back door while they was thinking I was going to run for something. Jamal snuck through the back door, and she laughed and nodded her head yes, right? Because they don't want anything like that, you know. And we're not seeing it, and I don't care what people say, you know. We're not seeing it from anybody, especially in Washington D.C. that is unapologetic, because they're taking money from the enemy of our people. Yeah. And we have to be aware of that. You know, we can't sit and poke fingers and calling people racist, Republican racist, but the people that we're supporting and voting for is taking the same money that they're giving to the Republicans. So what then that makes us hypocrites. That makes us hypocrites in what we're doing. And I don't understand why Black people, we don't see it. You know, but we're go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead. I apologize.
No, we don't see it. Go ahead.
Yeah, all I was going to indicate is that, politics, for those that have engaged it for generations, there's always been the additive of politics produces strange bedfellows. Mm-hmm. Now we concentrate a lot on the bedfellows part, but we don't concentrate on the strange part.
Right.
Why is it strange? Why is it as a key to unlock wants and needs in a community, politically speaking? Well, one of the things that makes it so strange is because oftentimes those persons, we know who those persons are that are running politically.
Right.
We know them. And when I say we know them, meaning we know them directly or we know them indirectly, meaning you look like me, you right. Talk like me. What makes it so strange is something happens. Something happens when you leave the nest of where we're from and you go to represent us someplace else.
Right.
And then when you have a chance to return back and speak to us about what's happening, oftentimes we don't hear the same jargon. We don't hear the same verbiage, Damon,
right,
that you gave us when you were with us.
Right.
Now, when you leave, you sound strange.
Exactly.
You sound strange as a Black man bringing up issues that in our last meeting, I saw the list of 10. I saw the 10 points that we all recognized.
Right.
When you do a press conference in DC, you don't address all of those 10.
Exactly.
And we wonder sometimes, like, what happened? It's strange. And I don't believe that we've ever truly been graduated, so to speak, in politics, because some of the things that anyone would say, well, you got to be able to negotiate what you need. You're talking to people that don't have your best interest, and you have to sometimes get to a certain platitude or plateau in order to have the things that you address. Well, that may be true. But when Adam Clayton Powell had that seat in Harlem, and he was the head of a particular committee. I don't know if it was Ways or Means.
I think it was the way. Yeah, he was control of the budget. He was.
Right.
Yeah, he was the chair. He was the chair.
He was the chair. And he said, we're going to have our meeting right there near Abyssinian. I'm going to bring all the Congress people and we're going to have session right there in Harlem. Now, today, it looked like a one-off because nobody else has been able to do that.
Exactly.
Right? But it should have been consistently done. Hakeem, you could do it in Brooklyn. You know, others, Aspayat, you could do it in the Bronx.
Right.
You could say, hey, let's have a meeting so I can show my constituents that I'm not strange, that I have other bedfellows, but I'm not strange. I'm still with you all. And it seems like politically, those other folks get to stand up at any moment and say, I'm not for that. But we have to go lock and step behind a candidate, sometimes even before anybody else decides. Why do we gotta rush out there first online?
That's right.
Why can't we take a back approach and say, we're gonna have a press conference and we're gonna decide who we're gonna give our votes to, but we're gonna do a wait and see approach. What's wrong with that?
Exactly. We don't even give politicians report cards.
Right.
Right. These people, we go out here and we vote for them. Now, people, just listen how crazy we are. We vote for them, and then we don't see them till election time. They start coming to our churches, and then they started feeding us fried chicken and all this other stuff. And, great. He's a good politician. He gave me some fried chicken. Right?
Man, this is some good chicken.
Yeah, and then we don't even check them on what we say. You know why? Because we have no agenda. We have no agenda to hold them to.
We don't know what we don't know what we want and what we need, and the difference between wants and needs.
Right. I think we got our elders ready. Brother Edward E. Dowdy and Marvin Church and Brother Ernie Davis. Let me Marvin, what's happening?
How you doing?
What's going on? And can y'all guys hear me?
Great.
We hear you, but we can't see you.
There's Ernie and Ed.
Yeah, were you doing it from the laptop or the phone?
From the phone.
Oh yeah, you're probably not going to see us then.
Okay, so we'll talk.
Yeah, because
we see you.
Yeah, we see y'all too because the screen ain't that big to see everybody on the phone.
Okay.
All right, but I want to thank all of y'all for coming on because I
don't think that's going.
I wanted people to know the great work that Herman Keefe has done for the community and for Black people in Westchester. So I thank y'all brothers for the work y'all have done, and so Marvin started off while they're trying to get the camera.
Okay. Hi everybody. Good evening. Again, my name is Marvin Church. I'm originally from Peekskill, New York, but I've been living in Mount Vernon.
Yeah, we can hear y'all.
Okay.
I've been living in Mount Vernon for about 25 years, and I've been around, but I try to be in the shadows. I've learned that from Damon.
You ain't learned that from me, bro.
Is Marvin supposed to be on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah, he's on.
I'm on, Ed.
I need to ask your understanding as we make some modifications so that this can work.
Okay.
My brother Ernie Davis, his hearing aids are not working.
Oh man, okay. we got to work it out.
Okay, so ask the question, and I will repeat it to him, and we'll just let him,
Okay.
fly solo.
I hear it a little better, but
Man, we gotta get you some batteries, brother.
They said they got to get you some batteries for your. They said they got to get you some batteries for your aid, your hearing aid. He can't even hear that. But
That's all right.
All right. Ask Ernie, what was it like with him and Herman Keith being the first black county legislators and the battles that they faced representing black people's interests?
what was it like for you and Herman as a first black county legislators representing the interests of your people?
what was what?
What was it like
Oh,
for you and Herman as black county legislators
what was it
representing
like
the
being there with
Yeah.
Herman?
and representing the interests of your people?
Well, what was it like?
Yes.
First of all, we didn't know each other before we took office. I was the nominee from Mount Vernon, and Herman, of course, was from Yonkers. But we hit it off right away. And I credit him for really saving my life in that as soon as we were elected, I came down with a severe illness. And everybody was wondering why I had lost a lot of weight. And I was doing a lot of coughing. And Herman was very delicate. He says, mate, why don't we get a checkup? We just got elected and we need to be strong. And I knew, he was steering me in the direction of the doctor visit. So we went, and after they examined Herman, Mr. Keith, everything is fine. And then he came to me, he says, Mr. Davis, could I see you in my private office? And I said, this can't be good. And so I said, well, he said, I'm concerned about that cough. And I said, well, what do you think it is? He said, it could be severe bronchitis. It could be cancer. And I said, I got a lot of choices, huh? And so he introduced me to an internist, Karen Bihar. And we developed a relationship, and we went through a lot of tests. And eventually we found that there was a problem with my colon. And they decided that they were going to take 6 feet of colon where the polyp was, 3 feet on one side, 3 feet on the other, just in case it's cancerous. And so it turned out that it was cancerous, but it hadn't entered my bloodstream. So I credit Herman in that he sort of directed me towards a solution to my problem. And after that, of course, we became very, very good friends, and we traveled together. We spoke all over the county, and we really hit it off good. And I was a politician. Herman was not necessarily a politician. I had just come out of having been in positions in Tom Sharp administration. I had been a building commissioner, chairman of planning board, chairman of real estate board. And so I had the edge in terms of politics. And so it worked out. He was a conscious, and I was with him to how the best way to get things done politically. And we traveled together. We talked together. We shared. In those 12 years we were with each other, we got a lot of things done. For instance, when the crack epidemic came along, Herman and I were on top of it. We had hearings, recycling, South Africa, you know. In fact, we got arrested. Now that I'm thinking about it, we got arrested for protest South Africa policies, their banking policies. And so I miss him. And when he became sick, I went over to his house, and he looked at me and he said, "Boy, I'm so glad to see you." And I asked Gail, I said, "You think he knows me?" He said, "Sometimes he doesn't know me." And so from then on, it was an uphill battle with the disease that he had. I miss him. And he was debonair. He was always dressed. Everything was always meticulous. And even when we were traveling, we would go to Albany. Herman would have his driving shoes on, his gloves. his car was always clean. And we just hung out. We played tennis together over in Yonkers. Sometimes he would come to Mount Vernon, and he was a real athlete in terms of he was a baseball player. A lot of people don't know that he was close to being drafted for his baseball skills. But he cared, you know, he cared about the people who didn't have. He made sure that he made the people on the board realize that Westchester wasn't the same as it was in other parts of Westchester. Cities were in a race with time, and we fought hard, we played hard, and of course I miss him.
Thank you. You know, what are we facing the same situations as we did when y'all first got as county legislators, or have there been improvements or setbacks?
I'll just give a brief response to that, and then I'll set it up for Ernie. Mm-hmm. I moved to Mount Vernon in 1989. I met Herman through Ernie. Herman was a county legislator, and I had a job working at the county, and my office was in the county office building. Mm-hmm. But I used to visit with them every chance I got. I mean, every day when the county legislative members met, I would, find my way up to where they had space. But they didn't have very much in the way of space. I remember there were 3 legislators in a little small room. Each had their own individual phone, but they had no privacy, very little space. which means that it was very difficult for two new black legislators to learn, how things were done.
Right.
How do you compress constituent ideas into legislative packages? How do you get support, from your colleagues? Because they never knew these people before they were elected.
Right.
So you
right.
can imagine the difficulty trying to develop and promote a black agenda, and you're dealing with people who have well formulated agendas that they pursue. So
Right.
very, very difficult task for Herman and Ernie to do. But the fact that they were able to, although they represented different constituents, they were able to work well together. I don't recall them ever having any real serious problems, and many of the trips that they took, like the Black and Latino state
Caucus.
weekend, and then in Washington, the Black Congressional Caucus weekend. The three of us attended many of those weekends, and they were able to expand on their interests, develop relationships that were supportive and helpful in getting attention,
Right.
a different attention brought to Westchester County, because the perception outside of Westchester County back in the 90s, if you're talking politics, it was mostly white.
Right.
And, it's, now we have broad representation at the state level and the county level and in the cities and towns throughout the state. And it's a very different scene. And I'll just say, as a resident, and based on my observations over the last 30 years, I mean, we are well positioned in terms of numbers and organizational power to really execute a serious Black agenda in Westchester County, and and expand the things that they're doing in the state.
Right.
Now, with your permission, I'll turn this back over to Ernie. I'll pose the what was the question that you'd asked before?
Oh man, I was all into you. I forgot. I was paying attention to what where were we then, and where basically where were we now in dealing with Black politics and the Black agenda, from when him and Herman started to what we see now.
Okay. Succinctly, there was no, from my perspective, there was no Black agenda politically. We had no representation at the county legislative level. We had representatives in the state assembly, in the state senate, but it wasn't as organized as it could be now. We were on other people's committees. We didn't chair committees. And there were always gaps between state functions and congressional function. I mean, one of the things that I don't know if a lot of people, know about this, but one of the most powerful committees in the Congress was headed by the congressman who represented Mount Vernon, before Bowman, the Foreign Relations Committee, and the chair represented Mount Vernon, and that did not translate into interest for us here in Mount Vernon, for us regionally, nationally, or even globally. But let me turn this over to Ernie. How are things different now than they were when you and Herman first came into office?
Yeah, I think the whole political stance and the reason for politicians being in office seems to be geared towards their personality and what they think will get them on television. And I don't think there's a sensitivity towards solving the real problems. And it has politicians are not trusted just generally, but now they have a good reason not to trust, because everybody's looking for something that get them elected with a small enough base. You have election, you have people that I don't think that for the most part should be anywhere near politics in terms of the people's interests. And so I would not want to be in office these days. For instance, there's no camaraderie. When Herman and I were on the board, we sat down with Republicans, we hung out with the leadership. Ed Brady was the chair. Steve Tenora, for instance, when budget time came, we would sit down and go over what really is necessary, and it would take the least out of the pockets of the people. And I think for those 12 years, if you check back historically, you'll see that we got a lot of things done. And then you had people like Al Del Bello, and it's just different. I would hate to be in politics today. I just couldn't do it. And I don't know historically if this is the way of history that says that this country is rapidly going down the road of a second-class country. We seem not to know what's important. If you really look at the educational system, for instance, you look at the jobs, job creation. People are more interested in making money on the backs of people. For instance, if you look at steel, you look at the materials that goes into making cars, you look all over China. You know, Trump is talking a lot of stuff about China, but China is eating our lunch. And you got people who don't have in my estimation, don't have the slightest idea of why they're there except to exalt their own personality. And I think this country is in serious trouble. And the types of people that they elect is mind-blowing. And so unless there's a change, so how do you change these things? Well, you got to have the electorate fed up with it. You got to have the loyal opposition that will spell out really what is wrong, and you got to get the people involved so that they will understand that they can make a difference and they can throw the bums out that shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I fear for this country when you look at the types of politicians that's in office now. And I can look at the stuff that Herman and I were interested in. We were interested in what crack cocaine was doing to our people. We were interested in the housing situation. We're interested in the infrastructure. That doesn't seem to bother people. It's
Right.
just who's going to get elected. And they can't tell you why that you should really vote for them. But I think the ultimate solution is that you have to have an electorate that just won't take the foolishness that these people who got elected are giving us. So my job now is to be a loyal opposition to gather people and analyze the problem, see what is being done to solve the problem, and get on with the people's business. But that's going to take you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And because politicians just won't do it just because it's the right thing to do.
Let me ask Ernie a question, because he broke the norm in supporting Jamal Bowman.
What do you think?
When a lot of other people in Mount Vernon leadership in the Democratic City Committee supported George Lattimore, what was his reason?
They want to know why you supported congressional candidate Bowman and not
Why did I support him?
and not Latimer when
Okay.
when it appeared.
It's hard for me to understand Black people. Understand. I don't know if they understand the problem. You take a guy like Bowman, and I was not going to come out for him at first, but then I asked myself, how can you explain to this young Black boy who's out there doing all kind of antisocial stuff, how do I tell him that I had a chance to put a representative back into office that looked like him? How can I explain that? I don't think any group of people other than Black people would not understand that. Bowman, they said he pulled a fire alarm and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's the least of the problem. The problem is that Black boy, that Black girl needs to see somebody that looks like them in high places. And as a result, they can aspire to be like them. And that's the reason I supported Bowman. I think he, in terms of the politics, I don't think he understood politics the way I understand it. and he was a threat. He was a threat to the established order. And so they decided that they would put somebody in that's not threatening to their established order. And for us, we don't know what the established order should be for our community. For instance, when I talked to Bowman, I would walk the streets in places like Mount Vernon and say, you know, you're doing all this foolishness. Here is a guy that looks like you, and he made it to the top, and you can do the same thing, but you got to stop doing this foolishness that you're doing. And you got to look at the structure. You got to look at businesses in the Black community where money does not turn over but one time, and maybe a half a time in cities like Mount Vernon. And that didn't used to be. People talk about Black people and what they don't do, but you got to look historically at all of the things that Black people have done. And you can I could use people like Bowman to come into the schools, talk to the business people, get monies into the community that trains these young Black kids. Look at the educational system. Educational system is where we spend the most money. And the reason we spend so much money is that the federal government has cut their support for the educational system. Who does it hurt? The little Black boy and the little Black girl. And we just don't seem to see that. I don't think we know what our interest is or should be. And so when I looked at Bowman, and we had a long conversation, and I agreed that he's not the most polished politician, but he is a force, I believe, that we need in Washington, D.C. I know Latimer. I've known him since he was a young guy. But in my opinion, he will have to go to Washington and serve those who put him in office.
Right.
And we just don't understand that.
Marvin?
Yes. Well, I just want to try to show a tie-in how I got to know Herman.
Marvin, did you leave us?
Can you hear me?
Well,
Yeah, I can hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Well, host,
Okay.
let me just say that, we started this with the intent to talk about the legacy of Herman. And we've been around the world. We talked about issues related to China and, branches of government that were not local or regional, but national and international. But I think this really puts the finger on what Herman and Ernie were faced with
Right.
when they came to the Board of Legislators for the county. Everything they dealt with was highly organized over many years. If they wanted some political interests to be looked at, there was leadership within the structures of the legislative branch. Herman and Ernie had no access to those.
Wow.
Other than as participants. Participants who knew little or nothing about the way these these people operated. And I think the difference between what's now and what was, 30 years ago or more is the fact that a county legislature
No, he froze.
Can you hear me? Damon?
of
Yeah.
the legislative
Okay.
branch and have direct access to them. And I think that one of the things that we all need to pay serious attention to is that our agenda needs to reflect where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just wanting to be one of the guys or a member of something. We need to think leadership. If I remember Adam, can you imagine how difficult it was for him to come into the Ways and Means Committee when there was nobody on the committee that was supportive of him? But guess what? Every piece of legislation he put together, it passed. Every piece. And I think that we need to have a good understanding of what leadership really means, what it really means for all of our elected officials. When they go to represent our interests, you're not coming in as just one of the party or one member of the committee, or you're coming in as a junior. You're coming in to lead the structure to translate real benefits to your constituents. And
Ed, I wanted to try to tie in. Ed, can you hear me?
so much as a legislator because he brought so much energy and he was daring. And there were many other things that interested me about him. He loved jazz. And we used to go around and spend the limited monies we had buying the latest CDs that were coming out and all kinds of things. And then we would try to find where we were going to sit and listen to them. He was a brother that brought energy and a deep love for the people he represented, the people he knew and the people he didn't know. We'll miss that brother.
Yes. Marvin?
Yes. Well, I wanted to try to let the audience know how I was able to tie in to get to know Ernie Davis and Herman Keith. I was a young banker.
Where's Marvin?
In White Plains, New York, where I was working. Go to the county board of legislators.
Hello, is Marvin talking?
To meet with
Yes.
Herman.
I can't hear him.
Can you hear me, Mr.?
I hear
Mr.
you well.
Marvin.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, Marvin's
Yes,
talking
Dan.
right now, Mr. He
Well,
could.
we can't hear him.
Go ahead, Marvin. Yeah, but
I would really appreciate hearing him.
Yeah, I don't know why you.
I
don't know why you don't.
Mike's on. Okay. So I was a banker in White Plains, New York. And I used to go to the county board of legislators.
So is that
every day? Every day after work.
Hold on, Marvin.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Dowdy. Yeah, because I don't know why you can't hear Marvin, but he
can't hear a sound.
Yeah, but he's talking now. But we took a break because you couldn't hear him. Okay. But I mean, since you can't, I don't know. I mean, if y'all guys want to sign off, we thank you for your input, and we're just gonna let Marvin close it out. But I don't know why you can't hear Marvin though.
Okay, well, keep us on, and maybe it can connect, because
Okay.
I do want to hear his commentary.
Okay. Go ahead, Marvin.
So as I worked as a banker, and at the same time while working as a banker in White Plains, I also was then the head of the NAACP for Peekskill.
Nope.
And I knew about Herman Keith, and I did my research on Herman Keith, of him being president of the Yonkers NAACP chapter. I knew about Ernie Davis, of his political background. And I love doing research on people before I get to meet them.
No.
So when I met Herman, I would
Tell
go
Marvin
and
the
ask,
next time I see him, remember what he said, because I'm very interested in what he had to say.
Okay, Mr. Dowdy.
All right.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Ernie, and thank y'all both for the work that both of y'all have done for us and done for Black people in Westchester County.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
It's over?
Signing off.
Huh? It's over?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I would go and meet with Herman and Ernie every day after work to go over some ideas and agendas that they were working on at the County Board of Legislature. I was like a sponge. I was trying to learn everything I could learn from both of those guys. With my connections being in NAACP and talking to Herman a lot, I then was able to reach out and met up people who were major leaders throughout the county, such as Napoleon Holmes in New Rochelle. I got the opportunity to meet with, at the time, Deputy Commissioner in New Rochelle. He was the Deputy Commissioner of Police, got to meet him. And a lot of these folks kept me on a straight and narrow as to what directions I needed to go. It would help me to focus on areas that what Herman was trying to do, as well as Ernie. So as we move forward, Herman got really involved with the South African issue of apartheid. And we were researching, he asked me to research various companies that were tied into South Africa, and that was using county funds and state funds in these companies. So I researched them. And that's when Herman had the opportunity at that time to meet Carl McCall. He was working at the time, was vice president of Citibank. And we talked about the various banks. We talked about the various financial institutions. And I was advising Herman how we could posture and move things forward of dealing with these companies that were impacting folks in South Africa and as well as America. And we started making some inroads there and impact. And I started learning a lot from Herman, listening to what he had to say, got to meet a lot of his personal friends. I got to meet his family. I would go over to visit his children. And a lot of us were about the same age at the time. And it was a really good relationship. So as I was head of the NAACP in Peekskill, there was a big case called the Tawana Brawley case. They tried to bring me into that case up in Newburgh. And again, I was very fortunate to know the Napoleons and Mr. Al Toon, who was the Deputy Commissioner of New Rochelle at the time, police. And they kept me out of harm's way. They said, don't you go and touch that case at all. Don't you even bring it up. You stay out of it. And that was the best move I heard in my life.
Yeah, we all remember that. We all remember that one, man.
Yeah. And then I had the opportunity to honor Hayward Burns, who was originally from Peekskill, who was the first Black dean of a law school, who lived in New Rochelle, but was originally from Peekskill, New York, and he was my mentor. So I got to meet a lot of people, brought in through Herman and other great people that Herman introduced me to, brought in Susan Taylor, who at the time was head of Essence Magazine, magazine. And her brother lived in the town of Cortland, brought them in to speak. I had the opportunity to bring Jack when he was a senior, getting ready to graduate from North Carolina A&T through Herman's effort when he was working with the Rainbow Coalition and ran the Jesse Jackson campaign for all of Westchester. And I worked on the campaign representing Peekskill, which he ran the whole Rainbow Coalition for the county. And he had various chapters, and we won Peekskill, we won Mount Vernon in a couple of areas. And I was hoping to be a delegate to the convention, but I wasn't chosen. So I learned a little about politics, learning to be behind the scenes. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but sometimes in the long run, you get what you want.
Right.
So as I move forward, work with opportunities came up for me. And I was being offered the opportunity to be one of the first Black commissioners in Westchester County. Now, a lot of people didn't know me down south in southern Westchester, but people in northern Westchester knew who I was and what I was trying to do and try to make a difference. But again, I love doing research. I worked on Andy Spano's campaign when he was trying to run for state controller. I did a lot of the research and analysis for his campaign, and we didn't win. But the theme and research that I came up with, it made the Republican candidate win the election over the Democrat, because at the time, certain people were working at investment banking firms that were still having a great deal of the money that was involved with South Africa. So that's their chances.
Hey Marv, I just put up on the screen the letter that you sent me from Herman Keefe. Look how old school for the Rainbow Coalition, so people can see like it's the real deal, right? It's not, and we can see how technology changed over the years too. But this was what,
84.
84. So this is how we communicated in 1984, with flyers like this and letters like this, man. And this is the original letter from Herman Keefe, head of the Rainbow Coalition for New York. It's a lot of great history here, that we really got to understand our struggle, man. Like we take it for granted. We really take, that we got these positions that we're in now as young Black people on our own. But people fought hard. You, Herman Keefe, Ernie, Mr. Dowdy, like everybody fought hard, and it seems like we dropping the ball.
Well, we are dropping the ball in a lot of instances because we don't keep up on the technology and research. You
Right.
got to keep up on your research. You got to know what's going on around you and what's going on other places around the country other than Westchester County. And one thing I was very fortunate of having the opportunity after going to school in University of Albany, my parents told me I need to go down south, and I went to Clark Atlanta University to get my MBA. And I got to meet a lot of Black leaders that are my friends to this day. I can contact them around the country, and I know what's going on. And
Right.
a lot of them had prominent positions in corporate America. One was Deputy General Counsel for General Motors.
Right.
He covered all of Middle East of General Motors. Good friend. He's on boards of various historical Black colleges. So
Right.
I've made some lifetime relationships and friends by going to the HBCU, stayed in contact with them. They were in key positions, and I utilized their expertise and their business savvy. And that's the advantage I had over others, because I always researched outside of Westchester County, because if you just focus on Westchester County, you're not going to learn anything.
Exactly.
Because you get stagnant.
Exactly.
So I knew what cutting edge issues. My major professor down in Clark Atlanta University at the time was Maynard Jackson's city manager.
Mm.
And I learned about what Black Atlanta was all about when they were building the airports and developing the businesses with the construction companies,
Right.
building the banks.
Right.
One of my classmates from undergrad's aunt was the head of the Atlanta Life Insurance Company in Atlanta. So here I am up in Albany. I meet this young lady from Syracuse, her aunt. I'm telling her I'm getting ready to go to Clark Atlanta for my MBA, she introduced me to her aunt, who runs the Atlanta Life Insurance Company for the entire country. I mean, where do you get opportunities like that?
Right.
How do you get access like that? My major professor was Dr. Edward Iron. He was the second Black person to get his DBA from Harvard Business School, doctor in business administration. Him and Andrew Brimmer were the first. Got to meet Andrew Brimmer, got to meet his daughters, his family. Through my connections of being at a historical Black college, it really gave me great insight and opened my mind to a lot of things. And I brought those ideas and opportunities back to Westchester, where I grew up, and keep my friends and colleagues to this day through Herman and others. I met Herman's friend who used to live in Yonkers. She's in the Bahamas. I talk to her all the time. I met a friend of Herman's, commissioned the Big Dig in Boston. I met sitting next to Ted Kennedy. And at the time, I met this other state U.S. senator named John Kerry, and told John that Herman Keith knew his sister. And when I told him his sister's name, John, I thought his hair was going to stand up on his head. Because we're not supposed to know about these folks.
Right, exactly.
We're not supposed to have these interconnections of knowing people and what's going on through different areas. So I've been very blessed and fortunate. Herman helped me out a lot. Ernie helped me out a lot. He gave me opportunities to see things. And when I was in position, I would also give it back to others who were in key positions that needed the work. Because when you're in these key positions, and my parents always taught me, you're there to serve. You're not there for yourself. You're there to serve. And when you serve, you try to serve others. But unfortunately, when we as Black folks get in there to serve, we get carried away. And we think we run and own the joint.
Right.
But then when you get out of service, and when you can't find a job, then you wonder why. I try to help some folks and you can't find a job. My white colleagues always will land on their feet. We as people of color do not land on their feet.
Right.
We have to develop our own business and opportunities. And that saved me after leaving the county, developing my own business with my wife, and I've been very blessed to be with. That's saved me talking to Herman, talking to Ernie's, because I had to go on my own because I didn't land on my feet. And when you land on your feet, don't land on your feet. You learn to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
You learn to make your own money. You learn that nobody can control you but you, because you're the ones to decide who's going to make how much money you're going to make.
That's right. So, and you ain't looking at no people to have a Black job, right? You ain't looking to have a Black job. You're making jobs. See, and that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's been helpful. That's been helpful. And I'll tell you another quick story. My economics professor, her name was Dr. Margaret Sims, just came off of finishing up her PhD at Stanford. Tough economics professor. But what I learned from Dr. Margaret Sims was on the board of Black Enterprise magazine.
Wow.
She always had us focused of looking at the Wall Street Journal each day to see what's going on and what the trends, the market, and how things are moving forward. So that's the kind of training I had, and I try to instill to some of my brothers and sisters. But some of them you can help them, some of them you're not going to be able to help. But Herman helped me out a lot. Ernie Davis helped me out a lot, and I'm very fortunate with helping Ernie's wife with the memorial services for Herman, because to me he was like family.
Right.
And you got to be there when people need you.
Absolutely. And I thank you, man. I thank you for the work that you've done. I thank you for checking in on me and making sure I stay sharp and on point, and y'all guys really have represented our community. We just got to get people my age and younger people to really get on board, because we talk every day, Marvin, man, and it's like, we see what's going on, and we're losing this war, and I don't know, bro. We gotta. Mr. Dowdy talked about it. Ernie talked about it. We gotta have an agenda, and these are guys that have been in it longer than I've been alive. and they already said it. We have to have an agenda. Like, they tried to create an agenda. They tried to put an agenda forward, and we still don't have an agenda these days. Oh man, that's my
Damon,
wife,
I totally
man.
agree. We do not have an agenda, and we're not going to have an agenda.
Right.
Hello?
Yeah, you still there?
Is it safe to finish out?
Yeah.
I
Go
said
ahead.
we're not going to have an agenda. We're not going to have an agenda until we are serious about moving forward and not corrupting the ideas and want to not be jealous or disrespectful to others. We have to allow others that look like us to make money as well as our white counterparts. And we just have so much self-hatred among our own people towards other people who are trying to do the right thing. That's our major problem.
Yeah. And we got to get it forward. But for those who are looking for a Black agenda, please go to theblackagendaproject.org. Sign up. We're about to come out September with a Black agenda. I don't talk about it, I be about it. So sign up, go on in the blackagendaproject.org. Just go up and sign up. And God willing, by September, we'll also have a book, and you can help donate. When you donate $20 or over, you'll be able to get the actual book, The Black Agenda Project, which we will talk about our agenda and talk about, here's the thing, there's certain ethnic groups gave a master class this last election on how to get the vote out. And I really think I'm going to put a lot of that stuff in the book, on how we have to galvanize the votes of Black people, and making sure that those who can't vote will fill out absentee ballots and get the absentee ballots. Because something Cat Williams said, that they study us, but we don't study them. They study us. They study our habits. They knew that we wasn't coming out to vote. They study our habits. But Elijah Muhammad said, what, Brother Allen? He said what? Study the white man because he's successful and he doesn't make no excuses for his failure. So it's time for us to actually have a game plan on how we get elected officials that fight for us, in these offices, and I really look, and let me tell you, the elected official don't have to be Black. He just has to follow our agenda, right? He just has to follow our agenda. I'm not saying we're gonna run out and support all Black politicians. I didn't say that. I said we have to have an agenda, and if that elected official says I'm going to follow that agenda, and we support him, and we get some pieces of that agenda, then that's a win. That's a win. But we have to have an ass, right? We have to have even in sales, right? You gotta have you gotta have an ass. You have to have an offer. You can't sell nothing without an offer. So if they want to if they want our votes, we have to give them an offer. Look, here's what we want for our votes. It's either yes or no. And we can't get scared when they say, oh, well, this one's going to win or that one's going to win. No. Well, you know what? Maybe your competition over there in the Republican Party is going to give us what we want. That's called diversify. When you go to your accountant or your financial advisor, what does he tell you? You have to diversify your money. You can't keep all your money just in one account. That's what my bank told me. They looked at my account and said, why you got all that money in that account? You got to move it around. So why are we in the same party? Why we're not moving around in different political parties and diversifying our investment as Black people and our $2.5 trillion that we spend a year? We got to get it, man. So please sign up. And we've been on there for a minute. Marvin, man, I thank you. And is anything else you want to say, Marv?
Just tell them how long you and I have known each other.
Since I was 2 feet tall. Yeah, see, we done gave away the secret on the radio, man. They be like, oh, they knew each other for that long. Oh, man. since I was 2 feet tall, man. Before I could talk, Marvin was looking at me, man. You know what I'm saying? But it's so
all the time.
Exactly, man. And it's so great that we're doing what we're doing and we're out here fighting for the community, man. And I tell you all the time, man, I know Patty would be tickled pink because she's to babysit me all the time, man, and take care of me, man. And God bless. And I hope she's proud of me, you know, for the things that I'm doing and I'm trying to do, man. I just hope she's proud of me. Yeah, but Brother Allen, man, thank you for coming on, brother. You know, thank you for filling in for AJ Woodson. Thank you for coming on, and we had a great conversation as we do many nights. You know, I used to call the brother all the time. I used to drive to work. Nah, I don't work, so I'm chilling, right?
Well, just out here, this week is the NAACP's national convention here in Vegas.
In Vegas? Where they got it in Vegas?
Yeah, so just know Wednesday is the fundraiser for Congressman Stephen Horsford, who's head of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Okay.
So the interesting thing is, as you all were just saying, we're gonna see how much they gonna be B1 before D1. We gonna see. Right?
Yeah, no, we got like I gotta go back on their website. Do they have an agenda?
That's the thing. We're about to see. I thought their agenda is the donkey agenda. I can't tell the difference sometimes. I'm just trying to understand. But I've been invited to the convention, so I'll be there.
Oh man, enjoy, man, and enjoy. And then, you know, after it's over, man, we have you come back and we can talk about what's going on, you know. But again, man, I want to thank everybody that's watching. I want to thank everybody that tuned in on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and I lost a couple of connections because I had a little connection problem, but it's all good. You'll still be able to watch it later. But I want to thank everybody. Thank you for coming on, man. Peace and blessings. And we will see y'all later.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it.